Good morning. Welcome to the Ohio Elections Commission. This is the start of the meeting for November 21st, 2024. I see that we have minutes for approval. I apologize. I think I jumped attendance. Phil, would you like to take attendance?
I'll take attendance. Mr. Stafford. Here. Mr. Wolke. Here. Ms. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Lyle. Present. Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Kirschner.
Present.
Vice Chair Hagan.
Present.
All, the commission is complete. Ms. Chair Tavares and Mr. Caraway are absent at this point, and Mr. Stoutberg and Mr. Wolke are present as alternates in their behalf.
Do we have any motions?
Motion is used.
A second?
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, the members in absentia are duly noted. Passes 7-0. Very good. Okay, other business we have in front of us today, a long-awaited and now arriving Ohio Elections Commission rules of practice and decorum. Commissioner Kirschner, would you like to address what has been assembled here for this body?
Certainly. Just briefly, the commission decided we wanted to implement some rules of practice and decorum based upon developments in recent times, and to really establish for the commission our rules of practice and decorum and how things are addressed before the commission. So we have, and I think everybody has at their table, these 5 pages, Ohio Election Commission Rules of Practice and Decorum for approval. I believe the process then will be that the rules be submitted by the executive director through JCAR for the review and approval process and the ultimate enactment. So I would move, unless there's any discussion, that we approve these rules of practice and decorum and authorize Executive Director Richter
Commissioner, if you might outline or share some of these general recommendations that we're assuming to adopt moving forward.
Say again. I was talking to Mr. Hicks for a moment.
I'll get in trouble every time. I think it would be good to just go ahead and set the pace for today's hearing and meeting
Yes.
informally and formally for how we'll proceed moving forward once these are officially approved.
So the rules generally cover 5 items: general decorum, use of electronic devices, behavior of public attendees, sanctions and violations of decorum, and the way that evidence and testimony will be handled before the commission. I think as a general rule, and it would serve us to talk about just simply, those are the 5 areas as it relates to participant conduct. I'll just go over that one briefly. We've indicated that all participants in proceedings, including attorneys, parties, witnesses, and members of the public, must behave with civility and professionalism at all times. All remarks shall be addressed to the commission in a respectful manner. Participants shall not engage in personal attacks, exclamatory language, or inappropriate behavior. The following behaviors are strictly prohibited: interrupting the chairperson, commission members, the executive director, disrespectful or hostile tones, language, or raising voices aggressively, using profane and derogatory language, engaging in gestures meant to intimidate or disrupt, failing to comply with instructions from the chairperson, commission members, or the executive director. These are the rules that we're going to work with JCAR through the approval process. They have not been approved and enacted yet. That is a small portion of the general decorum. Again, these rules address general decorum, appearance of council and parties, use of electronic devices, behavior of public attendees, sanctions for violation, and evidence and testimony. We will generally observe these rules just because they're really common sense for addressing public bodies, and we'll work with JCAR through the approval process.
Very good. I appreciate it, Commissioner Kirschner. And just out of general respect for those in attendance, our desire to create a consistent experience is not just for ourselves, but for all in attendance. And for this to be an enjoyable process, our desire is to bring people into compliance and for the state of Ohio to operate in a way that honors and respects those that are both presenting and those that are hearing the presentations. There have been some wild times and some seamless days. So that's the reason we're having these conversations is to ensure that we have the appropriate formality of this body of government. So having said all of that, we want to set just an expectation for today. We will elevate the cases of those who are present and in person out of respect for your time, so you're not having to sit through other things. But we also want to recommend, it is probably going to be a longer day. And because of that, every hour on the hour, we are going to take a 5-minute break. And then at noon, we will have a half-hour recess for lunch. So all is fair and love war in the Ohio Elections Commission. But you know when you can eat, drink, nourish, and just take a quick mental break. So very good. Having said all of that, we will go ahead, as mentioned, for those who are in attendance. The executive director has shared with me who is here. So we will go ahead, commission, to move to the good cause section. I apologize. Oh, I apologize. I apologize. So first and foremost, we can actually stay in order immediately. For preliminary reviews, we do have complainant present for Boyle versus Weinberg. So if you would like to.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, in this case, the complaint asserts that the respondents essentially violated Ohio's independent expenditure statute when it circulated certain campaign materials in favor of a ballot issue in Orange Village. You received a complaint. A response was submitted on behalf of the respondent. I've synopsized that here for you. I don't need to repeat it. But essentially, when she created a PAC, filed all that document with the County Board of Elections. You know, Mr. Boyle is here. Certainly the commission can have him sworn if they would like to hear him further. Hear the complainant speak any further to the complaints.
If you wish to be sworn.
You swear affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. And on behalf of, I guess, all Ohioans, I thank you for putting together a rules of decorum. And certainly I can't imagine that I would be violating the decorum rules before or after this goes into effect. Again, my name is Jim Boyle. I am a proud resident of Orange Village, which is a smaller suburban community in Cuyahoga County. I recognize that you have a fairly weighty agenda today, so I will try to be brief. The matter, again, I've been I'm 58 years old. I've lived in Cuyahoga County my entire life, and I've been involved in the political process, both as an elected official. Both my parents were elected officials. My wife currently is, my uncle currently is up in Cuyahoga County, and I've never been before this body, and I'm kind of happy that that's the case. It's the first election complaint, commission complaint that I've ever filed, and God willing, the last one as well. The matter in front of you involved a rezoning matter in Orange Village. And pursuant to our charter in Orange Village, all matters of rezoning go before the electorate. In that fashion, then, once the decision was made to place this matter on the ballot, there became a group organized in opposition to it and a group obviously in favor of it. As the director has indicated, I filed a complaint and evidently the respondent has filed a response. I was unaware of that, but I'm happy to hear that. The gravamen of the matter here, quite frankly, was that as we started off in this process, recognizing that the matter in which we were dealing with involved the election aspects, that there were certain rules and protocols that had to be followed, including the establishment of a political action committee. We knew that from the beginning, and we obviously did that. Unfortunately, on the other side of that, there was no indication or desire to even search out what the rules of the matter were, let alone to follow them. Without getting into the David versus Goliath aspect of a small group of citizens opposing not just City Hall, but also a wealthy developer, we did go about our business making sure that we complied with all the rules. With that in mind, obviously, I was contacted by some of my neighbors indicating that yard signs were cropping up and literature is being distributed that clearly did not comply with the basic aspects of the rules. And it was clear that no political action committee had been established despite the outlay of what turned out to be a significant amount of money. And I would like to add, if I can, just commentary. Obviously, you have my affidavit in front of you, and there's been a response filed. I'm not going to belabor the issue. But since that time, obviously, matters of different things have happened. And I'd like to just outline what some of them are. I filed my affidavit, I completed my affidavit on September 30th. Since that day, about a week later, we received a citywide mailer that had obviously been printed up by this same group and obviously used the U.S. Postal Service to mail to the entirety of the community. Obviously, this matter was urging the passage of issue 32. It included language that it was, quote, paid for by the KJI Group LLC. Again, that I checked with the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections at that time. No political action committee had been established. I did speak to representatives at the Board of Elections and indicated that sometime later, I believe it was on October 7th, after being contacted and brought in, Mr. Weinberg did file a designation of treasurer form with the Board of Election. I did request a copy of the campaign finance filings on November 4th. And in that document, it indicated that prior to even filing any of this designation of treasurer, they had raised, or it was all his own money, but expended over $16,000 of this without ever forming a political action committee. There is good news, at least, that the will of the citizens, we did win and defeat the levy by a 2-to-1 margin. But what I do think, and I'm cautiously optimistic that this body will not do, is just say, well, look, the matter's over. That's the end of it. He did comply with it, albeit after the fact. I don't and think that, hey, this was punishment enough that he had to have a campaign finance matter filed against him. I don't really think that does what it is, what should be happening here. At the end of the day, we all have rules to follow. And to that extent, we all know you don't dig a hole in the ground if you're a developer without checking to see whether there's wires underneath there. And if you're going to get engaged in the political process, there are rules that we all have to follow. And if we don't do anything, we just say, hey, don't worry, you guys filed this, the campaign's over, he lost, and there is no outcome to this, then this is just going to continue down the line. And with this situation where we're seriously just a concerned group of citizens against a wealthy developer, those type of things do matter because the money can be spent, it can be out the door before anyone even knows and the matter is over. And so to that extent, I do ask you, this body, when you do take this under consideration, obviously you've got precedent in what you've done in the past, but to that extent, I do hope and ask that you do levy some level of punitive measure toward this, whether it be a fine or some other matter, so that others know that they can't just do that people just can't come in and start throwing their money at problems and expect that, oh, well, if I get caught, I'll come down to the Board of Elections and file. We do have rules. We do have parameters that we have to follow. And I do ask that you uphold those parameters here and impose a punishment here that does appropriately deter this action from happening in the past. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions of the commission members? Seeing none.
Thank you. I just want, and before I leave, Chris, I think is the gentleman's name. He was very helpful throughout. You have good staff for whatever that was. As I said, I don't really know the process, but I spoke to him several times and he walked me through.
I think everyone needed to hear that today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Very good. Congratulations, Chris. Job well done. Very good. Thank you. All right. Having no questions, is there any deliberation that the commission members would like to have? Or do I have a motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, if I may, could we have Mr. Richter give a summary of this?
Yeah, as I indicated, the complaint asserts that the respondent essentially violated Ohio's independent expenditure statute. The three areas of law that were included in complaint, 351708, 351708-1, and 3517-105, were the specific sections included. 08 deals with appropriate expenditures, et cetera, and outlines what those could be. 3517-081 essentially really only deals with individual candidates and their obligation to file designation of treasurer and create a committee, essentially. And 3517-105 is Ohio's independent expenditure statute, which obligates persons that make independent expenditures from either filing certain reports or including a disclaimer on their campaign literature. With all due respect to what Mr. Boyle indicated to us, my recommendation is to find no violation because with the group that ended up filing the DOT and claiming all of the expenditures on the committee, they're not involved in this complaint and it's not an independent expenditure situation. So my recommendation is to find a violation. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions the commission may have.
Are there any other questions of the commission members? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt the executive director's recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, motion and second, and all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. And I apologize, just for a point of order, and I will express to everyone, I am on very limited sleep, so I'm running on fumes here with a cold that won't quit at nighttime. I deeply desire to sleep, I haven't got it. So I might be a little off pace. So we will go back and we will revisit the minutes and approve the minutes from last meeting, but we did have additional guests join the room. So we just wanted to ask if you needed to sign in or if there was any case that you wish to speak to. So for both cases, can you let us know your name and the case number, please? Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could, for formality purposes, I would move to adopt the minutes from the last meeting.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second on the minutes. I love the efficiency. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes 7-0. Those minutes are adopted. Very good. We're not always this scary. It's just the cough.
Well, Madam Chair, I'll keep us moving forward in terms of, while those folks are signing in, I would bring to the commission's attention item number 64, case number 2024 R-470, Dwayne Mallory et al. It is a referral from the Hamilton County Board of Elections for late filing of the campaign finance report. My recommendation is to find violation but for good cause, not impose a fine or refer the matter for further prosecution. Both Mr. Mallory and his treasurer, Amber Monaco, are present. The commission wanted to hear from them further.
Commissioner.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Hagan
Good morning.
and members.
I apologize, Mr. Mallory. Do you need to be
It's
sworn?
like my courtroom. Got it.
Oh,
You swear from to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Right. Good morning, Chair Hagan and members of the Ohio Elections Commission. I'm Judge Dwayne Mallory. I was first elected in 2007 to Hamilton County Municipal Court. I've been an attorney for 24 years and a judge for 16. I was a prosecutor, civil defense attorney, and auditor and accountant. I filed 16, well, I hadn't filed them, but my treasurers, and I've had 5, a total of 5, have filed 16 campaign reports, the annual reports, without incident, 3 semi-annual reports without incident. I first became aware of the problem, this issue on October 13th, when I was actually out of the country on vacation. My treasurer was able to file the report once I got back on the day following the holiday. My treasurer, Amber Meconico, attempted to file the report electronically instead of filing it in person, because on January 9th of this year, she was pregnant and she was experiencing a difficult pregnancy. Fortunately, she and her husband are the proud parents of a young son. She believed that she completed the process electronically. She signed on to the account. And as I found out, calling the Board of Elections and the Secretary of State's office, no one will claim ownership and management of the system such that we could find that she tried to submit this electronically. I tried to get an audit trail, former auditor, former accountant. I wanted an audit trail. I contacted both agencies and they were unable to provide me with that. My treasurer believed that she filed this in good faith. I relied on her assurance, and to the best of my knowledge, I believe the annual report had been filed. The intent was to file the annual report timely. Since this was not an election year, the only activity in this account was dormant account fees deducted by Fifth Third Bank. So the beginning balance was $166.68. It was $81 deducted by Fifth Third Bank in dormant account fees, leaving a balance of $85.68 in this account. I apologize for the failure to file the 2023 annual report. Ultimately, it's my name on the courtroom door. This is not a case of dishonesty or malfeasance. This is a case of my treasurer having a good faith belief that she filed the report electronically. I ask you to take all these things under consideration when you render your decision. That is all I have for this distinguished body, unless anyone has any questions for me.
We appreciate it, Judge, and I have to ask, any relation to Dale? Or are there are many Mallorys in the region, I assume?
Actually, 2 Mallory's in the room.
Yeah, two Mallory. Okay, very good. And so this is a grandchild that
Yes, grandson.
delayed the filing. I see. Okay,
I will also add, he is the son of a former member of the commission, William Mallory,
Oh.
who was on the commission in the
Okay, my
middle.
father served on this board.
very good.
Okay, thank you.
And I appreciate just your diligence and respect to the situation. And also, Executive Director, I know that we rated it as a health-related issue. It sounds like a life-related opportunity. Very good. I apologize. Just noting some of our internal notes. Okay, very good. Are there any questions from the commission members?
If I understood, Mr. Richter, the recommendation was good cause, but no penalty.
That is correct.
I move to adopt the executive director's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, seeing we have a motion and a second, I want to pause. Were there any other questions or any deliberations that were needed? Okay, very good. Resuming the motion in the second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Travel safely, folks.
Congratulations. It's a no violation, but the gentleman is here for that case.
Okay, very good. We are going to go ahead and take under the no violation group just above good cause. Number 29, that is going to be case number 2024R-435. And I apologize. I need to rewind yet again. The case that we just voted on was 2024R-470.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so back to 29. for those in the room trying to follow faithfully, 2024R-435 Porter Library Levy Campaign. If you'd like to approach.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's a referral from the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections for late filing of the campaign finance report. My recommendation is to find no violation. It was for the semi-annual report and the information that was received by the commission that was documented is that the report was mailed and expected to be submitted to the Board of Elections by the due date. It was mailed on July 19th. But evidence showed that it was transferred through the state of Pennsylvania before making it back to Cuyahoga County. And so, yes, it was late, but taking into consideration the circumstances as outlined in the evidence presented to the commission, and my recommendation is to find a violation. The commission wants to hear further from Mr. Mangles?
Mangles, yes.
Mangles. We could be sworn and the commission can hear from him further.
Mr. Mangles, you be sworn.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you for that. And at the risk of wasting any of your time, I just want to quickly say, thank you to the Elections Board for everything you do. At the library, we partner with Cuyahoga County Elections Board every opportunity we get. We understand how important the work you do is, and we appreciate it. We're embarrassed about this, even though it was a postal error. We want to make sure we're above reproach in everything we do. And again, just thank you for all that you do.
Very kind and gracious, and I think no one here needs any gratitude or kindness. So thank you for that. But we appreciate you being here and presenting the case. Are there any questions of the commission members for gentlemen? Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll move the recommendation.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We're gonna have to.
Mr. Knight.
Okay, Knight was first. Sorry, across the finish line for that was a tough call. Sorry. I'm glad we had. Can we get a replay? Sorry.
It's working faster.
I got these cameras. It's a little wild. Okay, all right. You're gonna have to be faster next punch. Okay, we want to get you in. No, sorry. All right, very good. So seeing a motion in a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Great try, Paul.
Too far.
We got an additional guest.
There.
There's an additional.
Oh, right.
Oh, no, I apologize. Okay. All right. Okay, we are going to hop a few out of respect for those present. On page 3, $200 fine category section, item number 2, it's case 2023R-457.
Chair, members of the commission, this is the Electina Lady Committee referral from the Summit County Board of Election for the filed 2021 annual report. It was filed on August 27th, 2024. We did receive a response. There is a certain history here in terms of prior violations in which the commission made certain findings. My recommendation is to find the violation and impose a fine of $200. The commission can certainly hear from Ms. Merlady if the commission desires to do so. And she's sworn.
Ms. Merlady, if you would like to.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him very well.
Sorry, my recommendation is to find a violation, impose a
Sorry,
fine,
what was your recommendation?
find a violation, impose a fine of $200.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission members. Just very quick history on this. My campaign ended in 2011. At the end of that campaign, a failed reelection bid, we had spent every dime in our account and closed the bank account. And to my knowledge, my treasurer had filed a report with the election board. Also with the city of Akron, which Akron has its own charter requirements for campaign finance. It wasn't until many years later that I found out that my treasurer was continuing to file annual reports with money in some account, but I know that his wife, who was also my other treasurer, did close that bank account. She actually worked for the bank, so, and have spoken to her since then. The reason I started getting notifications was because, Mr. Ball, who was my primary treasurer, had, left his wife and, just pretty much disappeared. He left the keys, his cell phone, wiped all his social media and left. I have not seen or heard from him since then. That was in 2015. So when I was finally notified and we had a hearing in 2019 and discussed this and I paid my fine, I thought we were done. Turns out we were not done. And the Board of Elections had been racking up years of no campaign reports being turned in. And I thought that this whole process was over. So I apologize that I was apparently supposed to file a termination of the campaign with the Board of Elections, and I was unaware of that. Unfortunately, because I had moved the Board of Elections, and it had moved before this previous hearing, actually, the Board of Elections was still sending information to my old address. And I believe that somehow well, I'm not hard to find. I work for the county. So at some point they decided, hey, does anyone know where she is? And I got a call on my cell phone informing me that they were hearing from you. And so I do apologize that we are back here again. As I said, I paid $100 fine and just did not file that last piece of paperwork to terminate the committee. I really had no intentions on leaving the committee open for any reason. So that's why we're here today.
Very good. Thank you for that information. Are there any questions of the commission members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good.
Thank you for being here this morning, Ms. Maletti. I have a question for you. So did you file the proper paperwork now to close?
I did. I filed termination of my campaign. I believe I sent a copy of that with my affidavit for this hearing.
And when did you file? And
Um, termination was filed 11/5/24.
thank you.
Mhm.
And any other questions of commission members? Okay, good, thank you. Any discussion of the members? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion? Has anyone had their coffee yet today? Wheaties, anything?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the executive director's recommendation and consider this case final with a $200 fine and the account being closed.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Second, one second. So what is the motion?
Can you repeat the motion?
To accept the executive director's recommendation for the $200 fine because of prior case
And also there was to close the account.
determination of the account.
Okay, well, in the spirit of discussion, you know, we have for many past situations where candidates or committees or treasurers have ignored for years, just even responding, and we finally get a hold of them and they've got $1,000 of fines and we settle for $50, $100. So, you know, as I listen to hear a very, you know, reasonable story of the fine that was paid, an understandable misunderstanding of the lack of termination, And being a county commissioner, but the Board of Elections can't find them for a number of years. I think to have a higher fine than for others who have frankly avoided responding for several years as fines paid up is, in my opinion, grossly unfair. So I will certainly be voting against the motion.
But I would just say, certainly understand Mr. Knight's comments, but we do have a motion in a second.
Discussion?
No,
no.
I'm happy, I absolutely understand your position, but it has
But
been.
now you vote, right?
Okay, is there any other discussion of the commission members? Okay, very good. Resuming the motion and second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
May have been a split. Was that?
I think it was Mr. Lyle also voting no.
Okay, so it was
5-2.
4. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there was,
What
yeah,
was the one? Oh, you did as well. Okay. I
yeah,
couldn't
so
hear
4-3.
you.
It was, yeah, okay.
4-3. Okay.
Okay, that motion carries 4-3.
Executive Director, we gotta take care of that right here.
Right.
I know.
Spoke louder.
I'm sorry, did the
Madam-
motion pass as, okay. Okay.
Madam
thank
Chair,
you.
if I may.
Yes.
We have a moment. The executive director mentioned this briefly to me, and I do agree. We have such probably a long hearing to address today. I think it's important for those in attendance to understand. Prior to us coming here, a great deal of work is done. We have the opportunity to review each case in detail, the allegations, recommendations of the executive director. And so a lot of work is done on each and every case prior to attending. In the interest of efficiency here today, we do have a number of items remaining on the agenda. I would move that we adopt the executive director's recommendation on the remaining items unless there is a significant discussion. Not that we would do this frequently, but in the interest of efficiency here today, that would be my motion. Certainly entertain any discussion that we may want to have or a second, but I've listened to what Phil said. I agree, and we certainly have had the opportunity to review each of these cases in advance of attending here today.
Madam Chair, I would just ask Mr. Richter if this has ever occurred in the past, and secondly, do we have other folks in the audience that were here to speak?
I am not aware. We gave everybody else the opportunity to sign in. I'm not aware. I mean, is there anybody else out there that wants to speak to a particular case aside from the hearing that is going forward today? I don't think so. We have done this, but on very, very, very rare occasions. I think maybe once or twice only in all the years that I've been doing this, have we done it. And it's been in a situation where you've got a hearing coming up and you want to try and get through everything.
Okay.
And so I'm certainly open to questions about anything, that I've recommended. I'm not trying to get away from that, but I just thought in an effort to try and move this whole process forward, it was a reasonable and efficient approach today.
Though I respect timing and respect Commissioner Hirsch's viewpoint on this. Coming up on 3 years on the commission, we have not done this ever. And, because everybody on this page happened to fall on a busy day is not a reason for us to give them any less shrift than we've given other cases in the past, or will do others in the future. If we're worried, about time, I would suggest we table these to a future meeting and take them up then, as opposed to just, go through them, not even go through them and vote on them as a complete set. That would be my suggestion.
I appreciate that. I'd just respond only as to one item. I would certainly not suggest that we give anyone less attention than another. My suggestion is that we've had ample opportunity to review each and every one of these cases in advance, have duly considered them based upon the work of the commission, and that we just adopt the executive director's recommendations for the remaining matters. If there were specific discussions to address on any of the individual items, those could certainly be carved out. I also don't have opposition to bumping them to another hearing date, except the fact that I think a lot of these folks are expecting decisions because they're on the agenda now. So, ultimately, I just agreed with Mr. Richter's comments that it might be more effective and efficient. I do have a motion for proceeding in that way. If it's not seconded or not approved, that's perfectly fine, but that's the suggestion that I would like to bring up.
I'm just going to share some comedic commentary here, and it is that I feel that the efficiency of which I run a meeting is being insulted, gentlemen, and perhaps the time that you spent pontificating and pondering it, we could have already covered the matters. But maybe that's just me teasing. All teasing set aside, there is a motion. Is there a second? Seeing no second, is there any other conversation or deliberation on this particular matter?
Madam Chair, I would make a motion based on Commissioner Knight's discussion about tabling these for the next meeting, and we could move forward.
Second.
Gentlemen, with all due respect, I think we can get the job done quickly, swiftly, and efficiently right now.
That's fine with me as well.
Oh,
I wasn't saying, I was just an alternative to,
I mean, we have.
the best read signature line on an email I ever read was "Do not leave work tomorrow that can be done today." So why not? Okay, we have a motion and a
Yeah,
second.
we have a motion. And a
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
second.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, that motion fails. Let's go ahead and hear these items in order efficiently. Okay. All right, very good. We are going to resume the no fine or no violation category. The first item under consideration is 2024R-443.
I will leave to the commission members any questions they may have on all the rest of my recommendations. You see here in this particular case, the report was filed after 4 p.m., but while the office was open, historically, the commission has found that to be no violation.
Okay, if there are not any questions, is there a motion?
Move the executive directors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second, or a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carries 7-0. Moving on to the good cause category with the exception of 470, so that would be 2024R-411-413-415-420 I apologize, let me see here.
455.
455-475 -418-416
No, those.
Oh, I
those are fine.
All right, very good. 411 through 475 with the exemption of 470. Any conversation? Is there a motion?
I move.
Second? I can't second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, 7-0. Moving on to the next category. Okay, the $50 fine category 2024R-418-416-417-421, 448, 451, 456, 463, 469, 472. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Unanimous. $100 fine category 2024R-422. Any conversation?
Yes, I have a question for the executive director.
Very good.
So, said second referral previous, what do you mean by fine pending?
Well, we were, double check with the date on which we heard. This candidate and committee were just before the commission on either October 17th or October 31st. On October 17th, and we are in the process of sending out notice. We imposed a $200 fine there, and you'll notice we consolidated about 4 or 5 cases. And the individual came back again on this. And so I'm recommending a $100 fine. A response was finally submitted. There was no response in the prior cases, I recall. And just because we had so many cases previously, I'm not trying to overly burden the respondent, but considering the number of cases before, and the fact that we haven't yet sent out notice on the other matter, really the consolidated matters, I'm just recommending a $100 fine in this particular case. They're all for different reports.
So the consolidated set of fines was 200.
Correct,
Now this is 100
correct.
based on, because it basically give a response.
He finally gave a response
To
and
this one only.
to this one only, and the fact that we had already made a finding against him in the other matters. So,
Okay.
you know, it's just, I didn't want to immediately double up when we had just dealt with him so recently.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that motion passes 6-1. The next category is $150 fine category. Case number 2024R-438. Any conversation? Questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And motion carries 7-0. $200 fine category, skipping item number 2, moving to cases 2024R-424 and -442. Any conversation or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion? Coffees and Wheaties.
So moved.
So moved. Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed?
No.
Okay, and didn't give Ernie the fair, signify by saying no. That was a bias towards the ayes. We have a motion 6-1. All right, moving to the 250 fine category, cases 2024R-478 and 479. Any conversation or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Women aren't going to double up the work, guys. Come on. All right, good deal. Thank you. I'll take that second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor, signify by saying nay.
No.
Okay, that is 6-1. Moving on. We're considering all outstanding matters, vacating the previous impositions of the fines, consolidating all cases with case number 2024R-41. The recommendation is to find a violation, impose a fine of $250. Category, item number 65, case number 2024R-471. I am sure there is a question. Is there a question of the commission members? There is none. Okay, is there a motion? Thought so. Very good. Represented for Commissioner Stoutberg has a question of the executive director. Can you provide clarity?
Give me a minute. This particular case is for failure to file the 23 annual report, which was due on January 31. It was filed on October 16th. The treasurer submitted, she has had little contact with the committee as the candidate essentially conducted the campaign. The candidate, also the deputy treasurer, thought that the committee had been terminated and that the filing of the 21 post general report, and only after receiving notice from the commission became aware that the committee was still active. All reports have now been filed. The committee is in compliance and terminated. We had 2 prior matters before the commission, one in 2020 in which we found a violation and imposed a fine of $50. That fine was not paid. 2022 for failure to file the 21 annual report, found a violation, imposed a per diem fine. Nothing has ever been done with that. So I'm bringing all these cases back together, consolidating them with the current case. and finding a violation and recommending the imposition of a $250 fine to take care of all these outstanding matters.
All right, does that satisfy your inquiry? Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Very good. Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. And I'm over my words of giving you a 2-minute warning. We're gonna have a 5-minute break at exactly 11 a.m. Let's go ahead and wrap up this next category. Reconsider the consolidated matters, vacate the previous impositions of the per diem fines, consolidate all case with case number 2024R-428 and find a violation and impose a fine at 300 for cases 2024R-428 and -169. Are there questions about these matters? Okay, any conversation? Love it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I think we've only got about 26 seconds, so let's go ahead and break for 5 minutes and we'll come back and handle the rest of these matters. Okay, we're going to go ahead and resume the $1,000 fine category. Item number 54, case number 2024R-460. Any comments or conversation or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, unanimous. Moving on to the $25 a day category with the reconsideration option for cases 2024R-446, 449, 452, 457. Are there any questions over any of those cases or any conversation to be had?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, unanimous. Moving on to the $25 a day with reconsideration option with a payment of $250. Cases 2024R-425, 453, 476. Very good.
So is it 250 because it's been 100 days? Why the 250?
No, it's the second time when it's a $25 a day fine recommendation, and I'm trying to get them to get their attention to file the report. It's the second time they've been before the commission.
So we get, that's our straight from 25 day and nothing goes right to 250.
I'm sorry.
So that's the second level. The first level is $20 a day
Just as it
flat,
is,
and then it goes
and
straight to 250.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any additional question? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. Next category is 2,875 plus $25 a day with reconsideration option for cases 2024R-426 and 431. Are there any questions or any conversation of the commission members? Seeing none, is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries 7-0. Okay, the next category is 7,425 plus 25 a day with reconsideration option for cases 2024R-466 and 473. Questions or conversation,
Madam Chair, I have a question.
sir?
So the 2875 level is multiple times.
Right.
7425 is multiple. So what is the difference in multiple?
The ones we just dealt with were for an annual or for a semi-annual report that we're not time that we have not been filed. This is for an annual report, which was due on January 31, 2024, that has not been filed. That's the difference
So the only difference is semi-annual versus annual
in the number of days.
and the number of days.
When they should have been filed at today's meeting date. And that's the same for the next two categories as well. The difference between the 11.5 and the 29.7 is item 24 is for a semi-annual report. Items 55, 56 and 68 are for annual reports.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Commission member had a question, which items it is, I apologize, 60 and 67.
Okay.
Okay, all right. We do have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, signify by saying nay. Okay, that passes unanimously. Then we're moving on to the $11,000 or $11,500 category plus 100 a day with reconsideration option, case number 2024R-430. Okay, seeing there are no questions, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
My right ear picked that one up first, Ms. Davis.
Oh,
I
okay.
just want to make sure it's clear.
Very
So
good.
Someone else has to second.
That's right.
Can I get a second from the
Second.
first motion? Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, unanimous. Moving on to the 29,700 plus $100 a day with reconsideration option category cases 2024 R-462 and also -474.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
may I ask the executive director to tell us a little bit about, in particular, Stephen Magerly, who I know is Stephen Magerly, who doesn't live in Ohio, but it seems to me that keep on. Where did these people come from? What's, the board of elections obviously is not doing much to contact these people. Attention.
You may, and
No, well, this is, fifth case involving Mr. Lega has been referred to us by the, Hamilton County Board of Elections, your hometown. And so we've had other matters that have come before the commission. This is the next, matter, along the progression of increasing fine amounts in an effort to try and get the attention of the person and get them to file their report. They have not done so. I know from talking to staff at the Board of Elections, with all due respect to your comment, they do everything they can to try and reach out to these folks and get them to file reports and come into compliance. Fairly regular contact with the staff at the Hamilton County Board of Elections as it relates to these. And so this is just kind of for this one and for the other case involving for the 2024 R-462 is also one there multiple times that the individual has been before the commission. And this is just an increased fine amount level for multiple times before the commission. Mr. Caraway and I have had a conversation about this. We're going to be working on coming up with, I guess, potentially a longer term attempt at resolving some of these things. Because I've also had conversations with staff at the board in an effort to try and have some of these matters terminated. Taking into consideration the fact that we've already had findings against a lot of these folks and those matters being referred to the Attorney General's office for collection.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, have these two been turned over to the Attorney General?
I would have to look at the database to see if some of the prior ones have. As I'm sitting here, I don't know the answer.
What is our typical trigger point for when we make that?
Well, we send out a, the disposition, the standard disposition
Yeah.
notice right after the meeting and then give the individual an opportunity to comply there. Then waiting, depending on right at the moment, how fast we can get back to them. I don't know that a particular time frame, maybe 3 to 6 months later, sometimes longer, admittedly, where we'll send out what we refer to as the 15-day notice on all matters for a particular meeting that would catch up cases like these. It has been our history and with the agreement of the Attorney General's office that our sending out the 15-day notice is beneficial to everybody because while a matter like this might not be resolved, a lot of the smaller fine amounts that we impose that may not have been previously paid are paid with that 15-day notice. And then after that 15-day notice is sent out, 15 to 20 days after that, then we'll refer those matters to the Attorney General's office for their efforts to try and collect on these matters.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries 7-0. Next category, continue upon request of staff attorney. We will go ahead and continue the remaining cases 2024R-410 in all categories, 2024R-419, 2024R-434, 2024R-409-414, or I apologize, 412, -414, -423, -427, -429, -432, -433, -436, -437, -439, -440, -441, -444, -445, -447, -450, -454, -458, -459, -461, -464, -465, -467, -468, -477.
That's it.
Those cases are continued,
Reconsideration.
and we will move to the reconsideration options. So we'd The reconsideration category, reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of a per diem fine and instead impose a fine of 50. Case number 2024R-046.
So why 50? What was the per diem fine previously and why only 50?
Bear with me for a second while I. What's in my cheat sheets. For some reason, I don't see the printed version. Okay. Let's see, we're talking about paycheck. The report was, it was a post-election report that was due, that was filed on 7/15/2024. So candidates first time running for office were not aware of all the filing requirements. Treasurer believed that if they did not raise more than $500 and no report was necessary, only later did they become aware they need to file the report. Honestly, I think, look at the file, but I think what happened was, okay, response was submitted to us. Thank you.
Have the ICW.
Yeah, the report, the original response came into the commission only the day after the last commission meeting, when this was decided. And the postmark on it showed September 24th. And so I tried to take that into consideration as I made this recommendation here.
Okay, that's helpful.
And the same thing for the next case too.
Postmark was
055.
postmarked before the meeting where the case was decided.
Correct.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Okay, very good. If that satisfies the question, is there any conversation or any additional questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, thank you.
Second.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. Moving on to the reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $50 category. Case number 2024R-055. I apologize that my mic was on. I hope that didn't cause you guys any issues with recording. Are there any questions over this case or any deliberations? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. And all opposed? Okay, carry 7-0. Next category, reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $150. Cases number 2022R-209 and -508. Any questions or conversation?
I have a question for the director.
Again,
Two actually. So first question, similar to the other ones, why the choice of 150? And secondly, is the recommendation for 150 each for each of the violations total 300 or for 150 total?
150 total. And it was a matter of the fact that these two matters were outstanding. And so I probably should have
Yes, they should consolidate it then as part of the motion.
Yeah, but I didn't, obviously I didn't do so, but it says, I'm recommending that we essentially consolidate these matters and impose a fine of $150.
And reason for 150.
Or my. Here. This was a matter that we put back before, after we discovered that the reports had been filed. No response was ever submitted to the commission by the respondent, even after we notified them that the matter would be up for reconsideration. I did recall talking to Mr. Cartagena at one point, as he was, oh no, okay. The committee terminated on the same day that the commission was deciding the case in December of 2022. But we otherwise have not received any kind of subsequent response from him, and we have 2 matters outstanding. And so I felt like $150 was an appropriate fine amount.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments of the commission members? Seeing none, is there a motion? And if there is a motion, is that an amended motion, just as a recommendation for anybody motioning? Take a swig of coffee. Anybody?
I'm hearing Mr. Richter right, so I'll make a motion to consolidate the 2 cases
Reasonable.
Yes, sir.
for $150.
Yes.
Okay, that's my motion.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that motion carries 6-1. The next case category is reconsider all outstanding matters, vacate the previous impositions of the per diem fines, consolidate all matters, and instead impose a fine of $300 for cases 2022R-603 and 2023R-397. Yes, sir.
May I ask a question of the executive director?
You may.
So the Democrats of Rocky River are before us again. Does this include the other cases which we already reconsidered and imposed a $300 fine?
Good. Aye.
I think it does. Let's put it this way. It should, yes.
I would suggest that based on what we've done in Aviance, maybe that doing this particular matter is not needed because those prior cases were already consolidated.
Case number.
Yeah, or just move to consolidate this with the others. That is what I had intended when I had these all on the same day, because I referenced an older case, 169, as well. So, yeah, I mean, those 2023 R-397 should be consolidated with 2024 R-428 and 169.
I would make that motion. Sure.
Very good. Thank you. Very good, gentlemen. Appreciate you catching that. And that is why Peter Soutberg eats every hour on the hour every day, so he can do this kind of champion work for the Ohio Elections Commission. Very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries 7-0. We do still have one case in that category for 2022R-6032, re-return to the original cases under consideration. Are there any questions on item number 76? Okay.
Well, and this comes before the commission as a part of our process for getting ready to send matters over to the Attorney General's office. As Betty is doing this, she's in contact with the Board of Elections. And they indicated back to her that the report had been filed in July of 2023. This was for a report that was due in November of 2022. And so what we will do is subsequently send this matter back out for reconsideration since the report has been filed. And instead of leaving the outstanding per diem fine in place, putting a specific fine amount in place, considering the prior cases cases in which the candidate and committee have been involved. My recommendation here is consolidate all the outstanding matters in this time, and instead impose a fine of $200 instead of having the per diem fines outstanding. I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any questions or deliberations? See none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Sir, very good. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries 7-0. This moment bringing us to, I think, what many in the room have all been waiting for. The official hearing for today. I did recommend that we would have lunch at noon. I'm going to go ahead and recommend we have lunch now at 11:30 in order to not proceed, then break, proceed.
There's three that I'd like to call and then you can take your lunch break.
I respect and appreciate that. I've never seen an efficient deliberation of that sort, but if you're promising that, I will more than
And
gladly.
I have the full right to make my case. I'm not promising. But my point is there are witnesses that were told because of the executive director telling me that 10:30 would be when the hearing started. They have been sitting here for an hour and I think they're ready to go and would like to get out of here. I think frankly, they are more important than members of the commission who want to take a lunch break.
Oh, I so sincerely appreciate your sentiments. And I do understand your perspective. I will leave it to the will of the commission if there's a desire to break now for efficiency's sake and or power through, which I am a party to either desire. I can do this with zero nutrition at any point in time, any day, any hour. However, I'm trying to be mindful and respectful of this body and what we've endured in previous hearings.
Let's keep in mind that efficiency's sake, you're talking about your efficiency's sake, not the efficiency's sake of people who are here to testify.
Thank you. Looking for any questions or concerns of the commission? Is it the will or desire of the commission to break for any period of time at this point in time, or are you ready to do this?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. So are you saying that we will proceed now and then break at 11 as we originally intended to do? Well, no.
It's now exactly 11:30. We had said every hour on the hour, we're going to take a 5-minute break and have lunch at noon, brief half-hour window. But for the realization that this is going to be a lengthy deliberation, does it make sense to start now, just to press pause at noon? Was my recommendation. We might just flip the schedule, break now at 11:30, start at noon, full and complete endurance with those 5-minute breaks on the hour for anybody who needs to stretch, have a drink, go to the restroom. Very good.
Excused.
Oh, that is a good point.
Yes.
Okay.
I would advocate for, going either an hour, essentially we just had a break, basically just finished one, going for an hour, perhaps an hour and a half, and then taking our lunch break. At
1 p.m. Okay, so we have a recommendation that we move forward instead of breaking at 12, which I agree with. We don't want to start just to stop. We'll say we will break at 1 p.m. just to give everybody sense of when you can breathe, get a drink, some Gatorade, electrolyte, whatever you have to do. And then we'll make that a 20-minute break. So run quickly to Potbelly's and back if you need to, or get your granola bar. Peter already has his peanut M&M, so he's fine. And Mr. Kolke, you are excused. We appreciate you. We thank you for driving in. We're glad we could cover the matters that were in front of us today, so your drive was not wasted. Other than that, I'm happy to proceed if everyone's happy to proceed.
Madam Chair, so I have clear understanding. We're going to proceed forward and then we're going to take a break at 1 p.m. Is that correct? Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much. We are going to go ahead and start the hearing. Okay, for item number 79, Hicks versus Stewart et al., case number 2022G-2004. Okay, welcome to both parties. Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So help me God. Okay.
You like to, or?
I'm gonna
believe it's his case is still up, right?
Yeah, my first witness I want to call is David Goldstein. He's an attorney, so he doesn't need to be sworn in.
No, you still need to be smart.
I'm Madam Chair.
I do. Where would the panel like me?
Over here. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we ask a procedural question.
Mhm.
Commissioner Tavares is participating or not, or how is her participation again?
Sure. So Commissioner Tavares is absent today, and excused as such. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't anticipate her participating then from here on.
Okay, so she would not be participating in the vote.
Correct.
The total number voting then would be 6.
6, correct.
Does not affect the number that needs to vote.
No.
Claim that. Right, still 4.
The commission can commence a quorum with anything over 5. We obviously have 6, and so therefore we can continue to proceed.
Okay, very good.
Ready? So, and I think he's got exhibits that he can put on screen. There's a stack there, just for sake of everybody remembering. The ones that I sent have bluish looking page numbers at the bottom that make it easier to find within the set. And I did provide a copy of his that I scanned in that also have page numbers and fixed the page orientation. So hopefully you guys get those also.
Thank you.
So Mr. Goldstein, thank you for being here. And I want to thank the commission for allowing us to proceed at this time. So can you just explain, Mr. Goldstein, who you are and what your involvement is with Constant Content and downstream the Brian Stewart campaign?
My name is David Goldstein. I'm a licensed practicing attorney here in the state of Ohio. I have a law firm that's located at 511 South High Street, Suite 200 in Columbus, whereby I primarily concentrate in civil litigation. Several years ago, I was contacted by Constant Content through their representative to ask if I would assist in some collection matters. My firm handles very few collection matters, but I knew the individual who was the owner of Constant Content. So as a professional courtesy, I agreed to assist him with collections. He advised, without revealing attorney-client privilege, but has already sort of general knowledge, and he did advise I could state this. Constant Content provided.
What's the objection?
Hearsay, he's testifying to an out-of-court statement by somebody who's not here.
I don't know. He objected before I even heard what he was going to say, so I don't know what my response would be because I have no idea what he was about to say.
He was beginning to testify about what.
So why don't we let him say, and then we can determine whether it's ruled out.
Commissioner, I've talked to him.
He asked me to respond, so I'm responding. You keep interrupting when he asked me to respond. We need to have decorum here.
Made objection.
Please go ahead.
Please speak to the objection.
He was beginning to speak to what a person who is not here to give testimony said to him outside of this proceeding. That is textbook hearsay. He's not allowed to testify about what people who are not here did or did not say.
Sustained.
Okay, that objection is sustained. Please note and move forward accordingly. Thank you.
I was retained to perform collections on behalf of Constant Content for political individuals who Constant Content provided services for.
And who was the primary person? You mentioned you were retained by. Can you say who it was you were retained by?
Yeah, the owner was Jeff Longstreth.
Okay, and Constant Content, what kind of services did they provide that you were then retained to collect?
My understanding is they provide certain services, media services, mailing sort of flyers out for certain candidates.
And my understanding that at least a large part, or if not all of your role is related to collection of amounts relating to the 2020 Republican primary. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Can I direct you to look at Exhibit K? There's blue numbers at the bottom.
Yeah, I see the bait stamped.
That is not the rate stat.
Yeah, because this goes up to J.
Hold on, I got it. Yeah, I pointed out to Chris at the break that I have the right version of the
Well, he
exhibits.
had it.
Yeah. So page 152 in there.
G.
So Chris has it up on the screen.
Thank you.
So that one you have on the right side of the screen, Chris, you don't need that. Okay, okay.
I am at page 162.
So Exhibit K, you see it labeled Exhibit K?
Yeah.
Can you describe what that document is and the page behind it, those two pages?
Sure. Exhibit K, unfortunately, my assistant didn't put a date on here, but is a standard collection letter that my office wrote on behalf of Constant Content to collect a debt on its behalf regarding Mr. Stewart. Friends of Brian Stewart, excuse me.
And then the page 164, can you describe what that is? And was it part of that letter?
164 was enclosed part of the letter. It was the invoice that supporting the debt that was owed.
And the address on there, do you have personal knowledge of what that address is, or is that just information that was given to you?
I have no personal knowledge of that address.
Okay, so that's 15075 Home Court. Actually, you have no personal knowledge.
None.
If you go forward to page 165, which is still part of Exhibit K, can you describe what that is?
Yes, that is a letter that my law office received from Brian Stewart, whereby he was disputing the debt.
And that letter is dated September 5th, 2021. Based on that or any research you've done, do you have any, since there's not a date on your letter, do you know what date it was actually sent or?
Yes, I think when you contacted me, I went and looked when I saw that there was no date on the letter. And I looked at the meta, and I believe
I'm going to pause because some of the commissioners are not paying attention.
Excuse me. Continue. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to expect, we're going to talk about decorum and rules of decorum. I think part of that is that commissioners are paying attention to the testimony.
The commissioners are trying to pay attention to the
Okay.
testimony by
Well, then
getting
tell
it
me to
expanded so
pause.
we can read and see
Okay,
it.
so then just tell me to pause. So you.
No,
that gets
thank you.
resolved.
Please proceed.
Okay. All right. So if you could continue on the approximate date it was sent.
Sure, I believe once you contacted me, I looked at the metadata, and I believe it was sent sometime in August of 2021.
Now, do you have any personal knowledge, the invoice on page 164 that you've testified was part of your collection letter, that invoice is dated 3/18/2020, and I'm assuming you have no personal knowledge if it was actually issued at that time.
I have no personal knowledge of whether that was issued.
Have you seen other invoices like this on for other clients?
I have that were produced by Constant Content.
So for example, do you have an invoice like this that was related to Gene Schmidt?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Just for clarification, it was different services, but it was an invoice that Constant Content billed other clients for services rendered.
And in that matter, did Gene Schmidt, has she paid all or some of those invoices at this point?
Can you give us a purpose of your objection, please?
The relevance of what another candidate did or didn't do has no bearing to this hearing.
I'm just asking a
Sustained.
factual question. All right. So if you go forward to page 166, which is still part of Exhibit K. Well, let me ask you a question before I get there. In the whole course of that September 2021 timeframe, it looks like the next letter I'm going to refer to is dated November 27th, 2023 from your office. It's on page 166.
I'm sorry.
Did you, during that course in time, say between September 5th and the next letter from you, did anybody from Brian Stewart's campaign or Brian Stewart attempt to make any contact with you directly, other than this letter that you got?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Did you try to call them or anything?
No.
Okay. If you look at then page 156, dated November 27th, 2023, can you describe what that document is?
Sure, that is a true and accurate copy of a second letter that I sent to Friends of Brian Stewart on November 27th, 2023 at the request of my client.
Now, by the way, in the third paragraph of that letter, it states, furthermore, Megan Fitzmartin, who ran Constant Content's mail program, should provide additional evidence to support said services. Can you explain the basis for that statement?
Again, information that was provided that when an attorney tries to gather more information when someone's disputing a debt, you try to gather more evidence to support what a client is indicating to you. And that was additional evidence that the client was providing that could support the validity of the debt.
Okay, but did you have any personal engagement with Megan Fitzmartin?
I did not.
So that was Jeff Longstreth telling you that Megan Fitzmartin could provide more information?
It was.
Okay. So that's November of 2023. And you re-included the invoice from March 18th, 2020 as part of that, which is page 168
I did.
in this? Okay. Okay. So, and since the November 2023, I guess I could say now, since we've done both of them, during the entire course of this, has anybody from the Brian Stewart campaign or Brian Stewart made any attempt to contact you relating to these?
Not that I can recall.
I have no further questions at this time.
Very good. Are there any questions to the respondent for the witness?
Yes, Madam Chair. Morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
I'd like to go, not only use the same numbering if we could. We'll also go back to page 162 if we could.
I am there, sir.
We're there. And I was trying to write my notes. When did you believe you sent this letter?
I believe it was in August of 2021, I believe.
And we agree that August 2021 is roughly a year and a half after the primaries of 2020.
Assuming the primaries are in 2020, and I do know when certain primaries are, I would agree with that.
All right. And you've also testified that you received a letter from my campaign committee, which is complainants exhibit page 165, correct?
Yes,
In response to this, did you produce any contract between Friends of Brian Stewart and Constant Content?
I did not.
Were you ever able to locate a contract between Friends of Brian Stewart and Strategy Group for Media?
I can tell you there was no written contract between my client and Friends of Brian Stewart.
Okay. Did you happen to find any emails, text messages, any other writings that your client would have given you that would indicate that Friends of Brian Stewart had contracted or authorized these entities to do anything?
Only the flyers that I believe I attached to the second letter I sent in November of 2022.
Okay.
Or excuse me, 2023.
So Friends of Brian Stewart sends you a letter on September 5th, 2021, correct?
Yes,
And the first response that you send on behalf of your client is November 27th, 2023, correct?
correct.
Why the reason for a more than a 2-year delay in providing a response to that letter?
That would be up to the client. I think probably as this panel knows, the client had some other issues going on.
To this date, have you filed suit against Friends of Brian Stewart or anybody in relating to these invoices?
As it relates to Brian Stewart, no. Or Friends of Brian Stewart, excuse me.
Looking at page 169 in complainants exhibits. Looking through, can we agree? I'm looking at the face of this. There's no postage mark on the top of this, right?
No,
Okay. So would it be fair to assume that this is one side of the
I want to
mailer?
make an objection. This is not, these documents here, this exhibit L are not part of the documents provided by Mr. Goldstein, so I don't understand. It's an entirely different exhibit relating to another witness. So I'm a little confused as to why Brian Stewart is now questioning this witness about an exhibit that was not from him and doesn't relate to him.
My understanding from the order of this exhibit was that this was proof that you submitted allegedly to us to substantiate these claims. Is that not correct?
in the November 27th, 2023 letter, I did enclose mailers. I do not know which mailers I include. If the mailers I included in the letter to Friends of Brian Stewart were Exhibit L. We went back to try and locate that and we could not find them. So my November 27th, 2023 letter, where it states encloses the mailer open parenthesis, S close parenthesis, that my client produced and mailed out to you on behalf that supports the debt is owed. I cannot sit here and tell you whether those mailers that I included in the letter were those of Exhibit L.
I just want to, I don't know what I'm gonna do it now, but I want to make an objection because I have to be very clear. This exhibit has nothing to do with this witness. And Mr. Stewart's trying to make it seem like it has some connection with this witness. It's a different lettered exhibit that is related to an entirely different witness, and I don't think it's appropriate to question this witness on it because anything he would say about this exhibit would be pure hearsay since he has absolutely nothing to do with this exhibit.
He is testifying that he sent mailers to friends of Brian Stewart. I think we have a right to ask whether this is one of the mailers that he believes he sent in November 2023.
Great, proceed.
Do you recognize Exhibit L?
I don't.
Okay. Could we go to page 171?
I am there.
All right, and you see you gotta kind of turn it sideways, but can you see in the top left corner of that mailer? I think we're on you need to go,
Is that where it says growth and opportunity pack? Is that what you're referring to, sir?
I want to object again because these mailers aren't even related to his campaign. They're in here for a different purpose. They're from a different entity.
it's my turn to ask questions.
What
Respect.
I'm allowed to make objections, I think.
Well, I'm looking at Mr. Hicks's packet that he sent us yesterday, in which page 171 is a mailer. Is what the commission has different than what you're
Yeah, I'm
looking at?
looking,
These are additional exhibits, Chris?
Yeah, but you're questioning
Okay,
about.
there we go.
exhibits
That's what we're
from
looking
A
at.
different campaign.
That's what we're looking at. Okay. Could we go 2 pages in, Mr. Richter, from the exhibit you have right there?
I think he's saying page 171 or something like that.
171, I'm seeing it as this document.
Say the wrong thing up then. One second.
Yeah.
Is that your computer, Phil, or his computer?
Mine, but it's what you sent, it looks like on the 21st.
This is part of the Google Drive.
Yeah.
For now, I'm going to say your objection is reserved. I think we're trying to identify the right document to look at, and there's a lot of evidence that's been submitted.
I just want to make sure the commission's able to view the exhibits that he's using.
Yeah,
I'm fine to wait. I just,
So I also, as a side, remember I separately sent just the addendum pages alone that were additional. The whole file, because it was too big to email, was on a Google Drive.
bear with us, please, while we find.
all good.
So see, Phil, that says added up there, so that means you're looking at probably the wrong version of the added ones.
Well, it was the one you sent yesterday, because I can see the date on there. It's 11/21/24.
That added was only the incremental pages, but it wasn't, that's for the 11/21 hearing. Date up there's not when I sent it, it's what hearing it was for.
So if you go to your email 11/20,
Unfortunately, the Apple State system disconnected me right at the moment. I have to go back to my.
Chris, are you able to take him off screen while he goes into his email to find the document, please? And thank you.
Chris was the one you.
I see.
You know, but, you know, everybody-
So you're, it was yesterday.
That's right.
From the Google Drive.
No, it's just the attachment.
So that's there, the added one's there, so in that added, it's there. And it should have the right page, 160 or 171.
Okay, so that does have,
Yes,
that's the
so
one.
that's the, he has the
Okay.
right pages on him.
Here's what I'm gonna do. We'll project mine up there.
It's reserved. So we just find the piece of evidence.
Okay, there we go.
Here we go.
Yes. It's gracious.
Madam Commissioner, good to go?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Please
ma'am.
proceed.
Uh, Mr. Goldstein, we're looking at page 171 of complainants exhibits. I'm asking you to read the disclaimer in the top left-hand corner of this mailer.
Is that the one that starts with growth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bear with me. Growth and Opportunity, PAC Inc., PO Box 82. It looks like 16 or 18, Columbus, Ohio 43201-021, and I believe it's a 5.
Now, I understand you testified that this is not maybe your normal line of work, but do you have an understanding of what that disclaimer is intended to convey?
Objection. I have no idea the relevance of this question to this. He's an expert at disclosures on documents.
You call. Can I
You're
speak to that?
questioning about an exhibit that has nothing to do with him. You're bringing growth and opportunity pack into it. I welcome that on one hand, because I'll be glad to talk about it. So, but you're asking him a question about his knowledge of disclaimers on political mailers, which I don't think is his area of expertise.
Madam Chair, it's their witness that they called. We get to do cross-examination and it's their exhibit.
Well, then I'll want the same latitude when I'm cross-examining. Questions
Happily.
about things that far afield from.
Proceed.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Answering your question, I have I have a belief of what that is. Typically, it's my understanding is that is usually the entity that usually paid for or supported the mailer. It's a PAC, Growth and Opportunity, as opposed to a specific candidate.
This indicates that this mailer was paid for and sent by Growth and Opportunity PAC Inc., correct?
That I can't answer. I can only say that's my belief or assumption. I can't.
That's what's being represented in this mailer. That is the disclaimer.
Again,
Make statements about who paid for a mailer that he has nothing to do with.
Ask him to answer.
That does not say Friends Brian Stewart, obviously. correct?
no, it does not.
Okay. So if we're looking then 2 more pages in.
Is that the one that, just to make sure it's bait stamped? Can't make it, it's covered up.
We can
Yep,
start
that
with
one. I'm there.
172. Look at 172.
73.
That's fine too. Can you read the disclaimer on this one?
Looks like it says paid for by Growth and Opportunity PAC Inc. There's a www not authorized by any candidate or the candidates committee.
A big print on an exhibit that has nothing to do with him is a example of a lack of efficiency. What is the point of this line of questioning about reading off of exhibits? Would you like me to have him read the entire exhibit folder?
What is the legal rationale for your objection?
He has no knowledge of these materials whatsoever. It's like he just randomly picked an exhibit out of the document set that has nothing to do with this witness, has nothing to do with he testified to, relating to growth and opportunity pack mailers, that the whole line of questioning has nothing to do with this witness, his expertise, his personal knowledge.
I'm going to continue the same objection be reserved. Continue.
Madam Chair, I mean, I if he would let me ask my questions, he'd understand where this is going. The entire point of this is he's testified that he sent letters to Friends of Brian Stewart with mailers attached, but he's here today that says he has no idea what mailers those were, but this looks like one that he sent. That's highly relevant to.
He didn't testify to that, did he?
Mr. Goldstein, am I understanding today that you have no evidence for this commission to show what you did or did not send to Friends of Brian Stewart in November of 2023?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you.
Mr. Goldstein, have you ever had anything to do directly with collections or anything associated with growth and opportunity pack whatsoever?
I've done things with collections. I've never done anything with that PAG.
Growth, okay. As it relates to contracts, Mr. Stewart asked you about a contract with Friends of Brian Stewart. As far as your knowledge goes, did any client of Constant Content have a written contract?
None had a written contract. They were all oral agreements.
Okay. He asked, I think, a very certain type of question about lawsuits. Have you filed any lawsuits relating to trying to collect off of these mailer activities?
I have on behalf of Constant Content.
And who have you sued on behalf of Constant Content?
I believe it was the Ohio Republican Party, and we're currently in litigation.
And why?
Because my client has advised me that there's a debt owed by the ORP, and he authorized me to proceed forward.
Within, so I'm going to jump to Mr. Stewart's exhibits. And so it is exhibit number, okay, here it is. It's exhibit number 9. And Brian Stewart's exhibits. Somebody trying to put that on the screen. I have that on my screen, Chris, if it matters. Exhibit number 9. If it's working, I don't know. I plugged the cable in. There we go. So these are a set of mailers that were provided by Mr. Stewart through Discovery. Since he questioned you about mailers, I'm going to ask you to read each mailer. That's a joke. So, you know, it sounds to me from your testimony that you don't have clear memory of what the mailers look like in a sea of mailers. Do any of these stand out to you, or would you say that none of these stand out to you as yes or no, they were part of what you mailed on November 23rd?
Nothing stands out to me. It was several years ago, so.
Okay. Did you get provided mailers from other candidates that you mailed out with collection letters?
Yeah, my client, when we were doing this, he provided me additional mailers when I asked for the information, and he provided me mailers that Constant Content had mailed out on behalf of its clients.
And so when you say your client, do you mean that Jeff Longstreth provided you with the mailers, or who provided you with the mailers?
Constant Content is my client. Jeff Longstreth is just the owner of Constant Content. So Jeff Longstreth, on behalf of Constant Content, provided me the flyers.
So he personally emailed or transferred the flyers to you?
Correct.
Okay. And those are lost at this point in time, or you can't locate them?
No, I still have flyers. I just could not, again, I was issued a subpoena. I looked for the documents pursuant to the subpoena. I didn't go through everything that was in my file, but I did comply with the subpoena that you had issued and provided those documents.
Okay. I don't think I have any further questions.
Mr. Goldstein, just so we have a clear timeline and clarification on what was or was not sent to your recollection. The first letter you sent to Friends of Brian Stewart, which you said was in August 2021, you are conceding that that did not include mailers, correct?
100% agree.
Okay. The alleged mailers that are not in evidence today were not allegedly sent by you until November 2023.
Correct. Once the debt was disputed and I asked my client for proof, that's when I got that, and that got the flyers and sent in the letter. Unfortunately, usually we copy it, but my assistant, who's no longer with me, obviously could see some of the mistakes of the date. I couldn't find it pursuant to the subpoena that was issued by, I don't know if they're not the respondent, if they're the petitioner. I'm not sure what the language
But
is here.
in that 2.5 year gap between your first letter and your second letter, your office nor your client, to your understanding, sent mailers or anything to verify this debt.
During that time, we did not send anything else to Mr. Stewart or Friends of Brian Stewart, correct?
Thank you.
Hopefully that's the last time. So August of 2021 to November of 2023, is that 2.5 years?
I mean,
Stewart just said it was 2.5 years.
it's not, but I think the panel can figure that.
Okay,
out.
well, I just want to be precise because precision is important in what we're doing here. And then on the, you mentioned that there was a gap between the original Dunning request and the second Dunning request because of your client having issues. Can you describe briefly what those issues were that might have caused that gap?
Well, I didn't just say that. I said a couple things. One, when I advised my client about disputing the debt, he had to make a decision on behalf of Constant Content if he wanted to continue to pursue it. Also, the other issue is that there was a criminal matter that either was pending against him or he had already entered into a proffer agreement and was cooperating with the U.S. Attorney's Office regarding the householder matter.
So do you know, would you have personal knowledge that there were specific reasons relating to that criminal matter and his plea agreement in the criminal matter that would have delayed him acting with you?
No, I just personal reasons.
Okay. All right, that's all for me.
Okay, are there any concerns or questions of the commission? Okay, thank you.
That you sued the Ohio Republican Party over invoices and those separate amounts were the amounts that you sent to the Stewart campaign included in that?
They were separate amounts. What I have sued the ORP are separate amounts that my client indicated, not part of Friends of Brian Stewart.
So okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions, commission members? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony.
So I'm gonna call Bobby Mitchell.
Objection.
Okay, rationale for your objection.
Madam Chair, there is absolutely no relevance that this witness could possibly provide in this case. It's the case about what campaign respondents did or did not receive from people other than Bobby Mitchell during the course of that campaign. He's not been alleged to have any personal knowledge in the complaint itself. This case has been going on for, I think, it's the third year. He's never been disclosed as a potential witness. We had our hearing before. It's just a continuation of that. And now, for some reason, for the first time in 3 years, we're going to bring an opponent. He should have to give some indication of what relevant evidence he has to the question of what our campaign committee did or did not report.
It's Exhibit L, the one that you went to. So Bobby Mitchell in the last hearing, there were statements made by witnesses that would question whether the mailers actually went out. So Bobby Mitchell can testify as to whether the mailers actually went out because of people receiving the mailers. That's exceptionally relevant to this case. And it is also important to the credibility of the testimony of a prior witness.
Madam Chair, can I speak to that?
Proceed.
There are no exhibits in complainant's list of exhibits that would verify what he's saying.
Exhibit L. I haven't crossed the exhibits don't get admitted until we use them in the thing. And you're saying, well, there's not an exhibit. Well, we haven't talked about it. It's bizarre that you get to question a witness on Exhibit L, but I don't get to question the witness on Exhibit L, who's the person that it relates to.
Exhibit L by its plain face was not set by our campaign committee.
Not true.
Bill, do you have?
Go ahead. It's his case, you may have.
Anybody gets come in.
Well.
Yeah, anybody. I'll go get a guy on the street, Brian.
All right, very good. We are going to overrule the objection. Please continue.
You go. So I'll direct you in the stack. I'm gonna move the stack away that I'm gonna. Okay, so I'm gonna direct you, Mr. Mitchell, to, when we start, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. First, to Exhibit L, which it's hard to read, but it's page 169 where there's numbers down at the bottom of those pages. So did you, Mr. Mitchell, just by way of your background, did you run in the 2020 primary?
Yes,
And did you run in the 2020 Republican primary?
yes.
And in what district were you running?
I believe at the time it was House District 78.
And who were your opponents?
Aaron Adams and Brian Stewart.
Okay, so is it safe to say that as a candidate for office in that election, you were paying close attention to what was going on in terms of mailers and the other things that Mr. Stewart and other candidates were doing?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So if you look at Exhibit L, that is a picture of a campaign flyer. Only shows the back of it. Can you describe how you came into possession of that picture and then how you gave it to me?
Originally, it was mailed to my house, as well as my neighbors. At this time, I was able to get a copy when you requested it from Aaron Adams, the candidate as well.
Okay. And so do you personally recognize that piece?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you would vouch for that it was mailed, your experience is that you and Mr. Haslam, that it was mailed within the district
That is correct. It was.
in that campaign? Now, on page 170, I tried to blow up because it's so hard to read. So I'm trying to make it less of an eye challenge for witnesses so down at the bottom of that, it's just the very next page.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, so there is a number down at the bottom of that page. Can you read that number? I can barely read it, but can you read it?
To the best of my ability, it says 20 OH maybe 512-006.
Okay. I'm going to try to put up here. I put on my screen, but it's this is in Brian Stewart's exhibit. And in the file I sent where it was paginated, it's page number 97. But I put it up on my screen. And this one's harder to find. So I'm going to try to help you find this. You might be able to see it up on the screen better.
Okay.
So this one is in this set of exhibits. Here. Back there. 008. Brian Stewart's original is page 008 at the bottom of the page. Eight. Okay.
Yes.
So. Does that to you, would you recognize that as the same mailer that's in the picture?
Yes.
It's super hard to read on there, but can you see the number down at the very bottom of that one?
Yes. It says 20-OH-STE-006.
Okay, is that the same number you saw on the other one?
I believe it's so.
Okay. And that's also, I think that's a clear copy of my exhibits, by the way, of this, but for purposes of this. So that mailer, the picture that you provided only has that side of the mailer, correct?
I believe so.
You don't have the other side of the mailer.
No, sir.
So if you look at page 007, and if commissioners are interested in this, if you look, the first pages are the stamp side, and the second page is in this exhibit set of Mr. Stewart that he provided is the content side. So you see that, so it's page 007 in his, should have just been one page back. That one. So,
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
okay, so I'll put it up here. Okay. So that, I put it up on the screen on my computer, the other side of that. Can you read at the top of that one, since we were doing eye tests for Mr. Goldstein on reading? You'll see how you do versus him. Can you read what the disclaimer says at the top left side of that?
Paid for by friends of Brian Stewart.
So it would be safe to say that you don't know whether the other side of that card you had in the picture had that same disclaimer on it,
That would be correct.
but it would be, you could say that at least in Mr. Stewart's own exhibits, the other side of that card that's pictured with the same number on it has a disclaimer on it that says paid for by friends of Brian Stewart.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I put Mr. Stewart kindly asking questions about Exhibit L. So, and I love it because he brought up Growth and Opportunity Pack. So I put these are some of the other, do you recognize these as some of the other pictures that you sent me of mailers that went out during the campaign?
Yes.
And what are these mailers, the Growth and Opportunity Pack mailers? Could you briefly describe what those were?
These were just hit pieces, attack ads, to, just discredit who I was, who Aaron Adams was. And it was just pretty much the negative side of the campaign.
So during this whole 2020 primary, where we know there was a big corruption scheme, there was a plea deal on the Constant Content head and so forth, you as a candidate, you were seeing both mailers that were, say, from the ORP or from the campaigns, and then you were seeing these Growth and Opportunity mailers. What could you say was the distinction between those two?
Well, the one side you had with Friends of Stewart and the RP had very positive pieces to make Brian Stewart look amazing, look fantastic. And then they would have the other pack, the Growth Opportunity Pack, would come just with negative hit pieces, which would give him deniability, but would attack us at our core and never would attack him, just would attack his opponents.
Okay. So the key to your testimony is that at least the one side you could show from the picture of that mailer that ended in 06 was in fact mailed, and you had evidence of it in a picture, or Aaron had you and Aaron together. Because it seems, would it be safe to say that as the campaign went on and you and Aaron were both getting hit with the Growth and Opportunity, that you actually developed a relationship?
We did. And we even did a press conference talking about this corruption while the campaign was going on.
Okay. Okay, so so you don't know that the other side had that disclaimer on it, but at least in Mr. Stewart's exhibits that he provided, it had a disclaimer of his own campaign on it.
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time.
Mr. Mitchell, what was the outcome of the 2020 primary?
The outcome was that you won and myself and Brian Stewart, we lost.
You and Aaron Adams lost.
Me and Aaron Stewart, yes. Me and Aaron Adams, yes.
You recall the margin of that?
I do not offhand.
Justin, what's the relevance of the margin in a political contest to anything?
You can cross.
But hold on a second here. These double standards and a lack of decorum, a question about the margin by which he lost is just meaning to impugn this witness in some way that he didn't get a big percentage. It is a question that has nothing to do with the matters before this commission.
Credibility of a witness is always fair
So
game.
his outcome in an election return
We'll get
is
to it.
the credibility of the witness.
That's certainly part of it, yes.
So anybody that gets a low percent vote, they're not credible. I get
It's
it.
something that the commission can assess as they assess how they want to interpret, the witness's testimony. I'm not saying that, you're correct in that regard. It's just a statement of fact.
I asked about a statement of fact earlier and I wasn't allowed to do it. It's fine.
May I proceed?
Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. If I represented you, the margin of victory was 41 points. Does that sound about right?
I couldn't say.
Okay. Did you run for office prior to 2020?
I did. I was the Republican nominee for out there for House District 20. And so, yeah, we did that and got over I think 18,000 votes.
Okay. Did you lose that race by 17 points?
I don't know the exact outcome.
Okay.
It was a general election. Yeah.
After the 2020 race, did you run for office again in Fairfield County?
I did. Not for the House seat, but yes.
Okay. What race was that?
I believe it was a township trustee.
Okay. Did you win that race or not?
I did not.
Have you ever won an election?
No, not as an adult.
Okay. After that 2021 loss in a township trustee race, did you sue the local Fairfield County GOP chairman for defamation?
I did.
Okay.
And you
Who was,
represented him.
was I the attorney for the?
I believe so.
Okay. And did you win that case?
No.
Okay. You also sued Generation Now after the 2020 primary, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I can't recall. Was Growth and Opportunity PAC one of the parties in that case?
I believe it was, but I can't vouch for that right now.
Okay. What was the outcome of that case?
I believe it was a time issue. I should have sued sooner, but I waited for the FBI to finish their and the Justice Department to finish their investigation. And so we sued outside of the time frame that was allowed, but everything was accurate and backed up by the FBI's report.
Okay. Is that another way of saying you lost that case as well?
No,
Objection.
it was filed outside of the time
Yeah,
frame.
that's not a loss.
It's not a loss.
You did not prevail in that lawsuit, correct?
It was outside of the time frame, so we never even got to that part.
Was the case dismissed? The case was dismissed?
He's answered.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's an answer.
Sure. Okay. So you understood at the time of filing that lawsuit that whatever mailers sent by an outside PAC were sent by somebody other than Friends of Brian Stewart, correct?
The PAC, yes, sent their own mail.
Okay. You didn't include Friends of Brian Stewart as a defendant in that lawsuit, right?
No, we did not.
Objection. What does the lawsuit have to do with the case? And who was named in a lawsuit that was not filed timely? How is that relevant to this case?
Proceed.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to go to Complainants Exhibit L, which I believe was page 171 in the exhibits. It's actually page 169, if we could go back to that first. There we go. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, you're testifying that you took this picture?
Are you saying now 179? Okay.
160.
I put it up on the screen.
169.
Okay.
Plans exhibit 169.
Is it your testimony that you took the picture of this mailer?
No, that's not my testimony.
Okay, who did?
Aaron Adams.
Okay. Why don't you have the other half of this mailer for us today?
It was what was sent to me. I didn't say I took it.
Okay. Did Mr. Adams send you a picture of the other side of the mailer?
No, what I sent to Mr. Hicks, this is what I sent to him. What I received is what I sent to him.
Okay. You told Mr. Adams that you wanted to get a copy of the mailer that was sent out by Growth and Opportunity PAC. Is that right?
No, I just asked him for all mail that he had from that election and just got a treasure trove.
Okay, but the treasure trove is these 4 pages, right? 169 through 173.
These are definitely things I sent. Yes, I received these.
Okay, but is there a treasure trove beyond these 4 pages?
There are other things that may have been what do you call like door hangers, but this is all the mailers. Yes.
Okay. So conveniently, you don't have the second page of the page 169 that actually shows what disclaimer was on this piece of mail, right?
I mean, it's not conveniently, it's just what I was sent.
Well, do you have any evidence today that would suggest to refute if the other side of this message, the other side of this page one sixty-nine? Let me answer my
He
question.
didn't see the
I bet-
objection. The witness already testified.
I'm in the middle of
and
answering a
answered that
question.
He didn't know what was on the other side and that he only had a picture of one side.
Do you have any evidence that would refute the other side of this mailer saying paid for by Ohio Republican Party?
No, all I have is what I sent.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
I'm gonna ask you to look back if you can still find it. I'll put it up on the screen. So it's the one that says page 7
Okay.
in there. So you just testified that, and you testified before, and I said you testified before, but we wanted to hear it again for purposes of efficiency, I guess, that you only had one side of the mailer's picture.
Yes,
He just asked you if you had any evidence what the disclaimer was on the other side of that mailer, correct?
that is correct.
And you answered that question, no, you didn't have any evidence.
That is correct.
Okay, now I directed you to his own exhibits that he submitted to the commission.
That's correct.
On, when you look at it, it's not your evidence, so that's fair.
Yes,
But is the other side of the mailer that he submitted to the commission, that is the same mailer number as on what you had a picture of, what's the disclaimer at the top of his own exhibit?
yes.
What is it? What does the disclaimer say at the top of his own exhibit?
Paid for by friends of Brian Stewart.
Okay, I don't know if that counts as evidence, but it would lead me to believe that that was the case, that that's what was on there, because it's his exhibit. Now, what you can say from your picture or Aaron's picture is that that mailer was actually mailed. Isn't that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Okay, so when Mr. Stewart was questioning you, Mr. Mitchell, it sounded like you're pretty much of a loser. Are you a loser?
No,
Okay,
No.
and how old are you?
I'm 43 years old.
Okay, you look a lot younger than that,
I
so.
appreciate that.
So, why did you get involved in running for office? Why did you get involved? Why did you run for all these offices that you've lost?
I love my country, retired United States Air Force. And I'm a local pastor and active in my community, helping to feed the poor, get housing. And so I care about my community.
Okay. Do you think that it makes, well, let me ask you this question. Are you a liar?
No,
Okay. Are you dishonest?
no,
Do you try to mislead people?
no.
Okay. Do you think that the fact that whatever the number was, I don't know what the number was, but let's say you lost by 60 points. Maybe you're talking big Jesus would have lost by a lot of points. Okay. So do you think that that means that you are not telling the truth or some way your testimony should not be respected?
No,
Now, I'm an outsider. I've run for office a couple times and never won. I'm probably a loser. Okay. Losers unite. Did Aaron ever win an office?
ultimately he did, yes.
He did? Okay.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yes,
Would you describe yourself as an insider or an outsider?
I'll definitely be an outsider.
So when we look at the campaign, because he brought up your, this wide berth of questioning, when you look at your campaign and you look at getting hit with these massive amounts of growth and opportunity, Larry Householder bribe money mailers, that you're an evil guy, you didn't pay child support. What were some of the allegations leveled against you?
Yes, I met with Jeff Longstress as well, and they interviewed people to see if you would agree to whatever Larry Householder wanted you to do. But I was definitely an outsider. And so some of these attacks was that I owed child support. All my kids live in a house with me. I don't owe any child support. I don't have any outside kids. It was just all to frame me and make me look like a guy that doesn't pay his child support and has kids all over. It just wasn't truthful.
Okay. And so any event, so as an outsider, as you described, did you feel like it's hard to be an outsider in Ohio Republican politics?
Yeah, absolutely.
That there's a lot of spending that takes place by the ORP or by PACs like Growth and Opportunity PAC to try to keep outsiders down?
I believe that's truthful.
Okay, I have no further questions. In your exhibits already? Then I'm not gonna, Huh?
To argue with each other, just it's permitted. Let's move.
If it's not in his exhibits, he has to provide the exhibits before the hearing. That's your own rules.
He's trying to reference based off of the conversation. So let's just give him a minute. If he doesn't have it, then we'll proceed. Out of all that's been submitted already.
This is his exhibit back. I asked him yesterday, did he have any more exhibits?
There's really not a reason to deliberate right now. It's just,
One of this that you follow your rules. That's a reason.
Mr. Hicks, please respect the decorum of this commission.
I'm sorry, but the decorum seems to be that you don't follow your own rules selectively. There's a lot of due process issues here. And decorum is a term that you guys are using when it benefits you.
I appreciate the realm of frustrations which we're aiming to resolve. But this is a lot of unnecessary banter. We asked for a few moments to look at the evidence that has been submitted by both parties. We're permitting that. There's not really a reason to argue at this moment in time. We brought a Christian man in the room. We respect that. I'm excited about that. Let's just have a great hearing. Okay?
While we're waiting, who's making the rulings on objections? Because you've made rulings on objections and he's made rulings on objections. That's also not consistent with your rules. One person, typically not the chair of the meeting, typically not the executive director, is the person that's charged with making this rulings on objections. You know, in the past, Mr. Stewart, usually that's an independent member of the commission. Mr. Ricker.
There is precedent for both the chair and the executive director to rule. However, I'm in favor of one person handling that for the remainder of the meeting. And if that needs to be you, I'm fine with that. No, I will gladly defer to you.
I think that's inappropriate because he's already stated an opinion on the case when he made his initial recommendations during the preliminary hearing phase that the case should be dismissed. So he has a bias that's already evident in his views. That's why historically, Madam Chairman, an independent member of the commission is the one charged with ruling on objections. I would ask that an independent member of the commission be, as in the past, as is not only precedent, but excellent good practice, that an independent member of the commission be the one who rules on objections.
We will consider your recommendation.
Madam Chair, we have no other questions for this.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions of this witness? Okay, thank you so much.
I'd like to call Scott Schweitzer. I'll try to reorganize these.
Okay, very good. While you're approaching the stand, we're going to I'm going to afford a 5-minute brief recess for the commission members.
Mr. Hicks. Mr. Hicks. You ain't getting back to there. Mr. Hicks.
That's me, back here. I have a question for you. So I was trying to access the Google Drive.
Yeah.
Here, I'm trying to, so that was the email.
The one yesterday. I just keep updating the.
Well, so when I click it, because this is what I was trying to do, it keeps coming up and saying, can't be reached, and I'm like, well, that can't be, and I don't have the internet.
You want me to give you a?
Yeah, it's because I was trying to bounce back and forth and trying to go between your computer and Bill's and,
I try to have one somewhere.
yeah, if you're, are you able to just put it on if I give you a thumb drive?
Yeah. Because then I have both sets and they're numbered, so it'll make it a lot, and they're all facing the right way.
Yes.
So when you put them up, you won't have to keep rotating.
Yeah, I figured that way I can, because I kept trying to get into that drive and it kept saying I couldn't get in. So I figure it might be a little bit easier if I'm able to do it on my computer as opposed to back and forth.
I'm not a lawyer, you don't want me to do it. But I'll do it. Trust me, he doesn't want me to do it. He's gonna walk out here and think about the people that he made all day if I do it.
Never in the moment.
Well, oh, you got it. Because I couldn't access the Google Drive to get the other set of exhibits. I only had the one set.
Yeah.
And,
So you don't have those, and you.
yeah, he's put
On his browser, so we make sure.
Easier to cross the border than to get to the restroom.
It is.
There's lots of stuff on this memory.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a new folder on here.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
Here, and it reports that you haven't given me any viruses.
Wonderful. Thank you
Okay,
very
so
much.
they're in a directory called Stewart on there.
Okay. And pull up, so there shouldn't be any more hiccups as far as going back and forth. I should be able to have.
Okay.
I figured as much. I thought I might be.
Hey, Brian. Hey,
The scariest thing ever.
How's everything?
Good
Good to see you.
Yeah, I had to go serve subpoenas on this morning. It was a contentious matter, but I literally had to go. One week's over to Cincinnati, and then you went back up Big One Hill, or up the top of the hill. You went over like 3 houses. Yeah. You know, and it was like, shit, I get shot here, and nobody would ever know. For days, I have been trying to serve a subpoena on these. But I survived it here. So
Okay, yes, thank you.
Shoots.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, these are. Yeah, pistachios.
Yes.
It's not a good choice.
Yeah, for top floor.
That's true. That's only, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And so true.
Yeah, it's been, I'm out of shape, so I don't wear red.
Shape color.
Red's when I'm on top of my game.
I guess I should
Okay.
never wear red.
And then I wear it every day. When I'm done.
accidentally went out of the directory. So.
Decorated infantry veteran, battle-tested conservative, Brian Stewart will always defend our conservative values. Stewart served in Iraq, earning the Combat Infantryman's Badge and the Army Commendation Medal twice for protecting our nation. Here at home, Brian Stewart served as Pickaway County Commissioner and opened his own business, growing our economy and creating jobs. At the State House, Stewart will continue to defend our conservative values. That's why Brian Stewart is the only candidate endorsed by the Ohio Republican Party. Stewart will work to cut red tape so we can grow local businesses and create jobs. Brian Stewart's pledge to defend our God-given constitutional rights has earned him an AQ rating from the Buckeye Firearms Association, the highest rating earned by a non-incumbent. And Stewart is committed to protecting innocent life. That's why he's the only candidate endorsed by Ohio Right to Life, a battle-tested conservative who won't back down. Support Brian Stewart for state representative on March 17th.
Paid for by friends of Brian Stewart.
Do you recognize that as the ad battle tested?
I do.
And the voiceover at the end, would you recognize that as Brian Stewart's voice?
I do.
Can you describe how did your firm get the voiceover, how his voiceover became part of that ad?
It was provided to me by Megan Fitzmartin.
Okay. Did she provide it to you that it was going to be for an ORP ad or ORP paid ad or for a Brian Stewart paid ad?
No, it would be for a candidate specific ad.
Okay, I guess I shouldn't ask that question because obviously the disclaimer that Brian Stewart read was that it was for his campaign. And would you look at, if you look at pages 56 and 57, which Chris could throw up, it's just the next few pages, Chris, if you just page down. Page 56, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, next page, my bad. 56, there you go. So those invoices, Exhibit 1 is an invoice that contains a variety of state representatives on there. Would you acknowledge that it includes Brian Stewart on that invoice, which is Exhibit 1?
It does.
Would you acknowledge that it also includes Representative Gene Schmidt and Representative Alan Freeman on that same invoice?
It does. Would not have been a Representative Alan Freeman. Would just would have
Right, so that my error. I said Representative Alan Freeman. He was running and lost, like Bobby Mitchell. So those invoices, have you testified previously in cases here?
I have.
And have you testified in the Schmidt case?
I did.
Did you testify in the Freeman case?
I did.
Okay. If you look at them, do you stand, by the way, I'll just say this, do you stand by and your company stand by that invoice that's Exhibit 1 is being correct and accurate?
It would be, I'm
That's not a trick question.
Yeah, no, there would be. I'm worried that Exhibit 2 has the same invoice number. And I'm not sure why the radio airtime was broken down separately, but yeah, it would have been an accurate invoice.
So it looks like on Exhibit 1, would you acknowledge that the radio and airtime is also, the production and airtime is also split out, I guess on Exhibit?
It is, which is typical.
Okay, and then Exhibit 2 appears like somebody ran an invoice specific to only the Brian Stewart line items or something?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what it appears to be.
Okay, and then Exhibit 3, can you describe what Exhibit 3 is?
This would have been a placement sheet going to radio stations showing what radio stations were purchased, the unit cost per spot, the number of spots in the weeks that they ran.
So you would maintain that this radio ad ran?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to direct you. It's in this same file, and Chris, I'll give you the page. It's right after this. There's one that says radio ad, Exhibit G.
Okay.
Then there's Exhibit H. So Chris, if you go one more page. Okay. So these kind of documents here, and I'm not going to go into the detail on any of them. I don't think it's necessary. But like, for example, one of them on page 63 is a candidate agreement form, and there are different radio things here. Do you recognize these kind of documents?
I do. Yes, this is a typical NAB form, a candidate advertisement form.
Now, I would maintain that I retrieved these out of the FCC database. Are you familiar with the FCC database that
I
keeps
am.
records of all these?
I am.
Now, one of the documents in there, page 63, that is the candidate advertisement agreement form.
Yes,
Do you recognize those forms?
I do.
Do you know who A. Brandt Fink is?
I do.
And who is A. Brandt Fink?
He is a media buyer in my firm.
Okay. This form is checked that it was authorized by the candidate or committee above, listed above. It's digitally signed by A. Brandt Fink. Who would you have received that authorization from?
I would have received that from Megan Fitzmartin.
Okay. And based on this form, specific to that ad being paid for by Friends of Brian Stewart?
Correct.
Okay. Did you also do ads for the Ohio Republican Party?
Not to my recollection.
Okay. And by the way, your firm only does digital things, right? Like video, largely in this campaign cycle was doing commercials, radio ads, those kind of things versus print media stuff.
For this client?
Yeah.
Or in general?
Let me make it in general for the 2020 primary cycle. My understanding was that you primarily did radio, TV, but I may be wrong. So
Yeah, I mean, we do polling, we do paid phone calls.
but you don't generally do bulk mailing type things.
We did not for constant content.
Okay. Okay, so you did not for constant content. Did you work with other candidates that Megan Fitzmartin was working with? Or was her?
We did.
Okay. Did your firm do work for Growth and Opportunity PAC?
We did.
Okay. Who was your main contact for creative or the types of things that Megan Fitzmartin interacted with you about candidates? Who was your main contact for those things when it related to Growth and Opportunity PAC?
I believe it was Jeff Longstreth.
Directly, so not Megan Fitzmartin.
Yeah, because I think anything related to candidates would have been Megan. Anything related to non-candidates would have been Jeff.
Okay, so that's how you were keeping a separation between those two things, although I believe Megan worked for Jeff.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so let me just see. That might be all I have because I just wanted to establish these things. When you see, I want you to look at Exhibit K, which is, I'll give you the page number here. But it's what Mr. Goldstein testified to. So I never did the math on this one, but it's page 164. I'm sorry. I'll go to 164. There's the one I want to look at. It's part of Exhibit K.
I'm missing 164. I go 63, 65. I got it, 64. All right.
Probably because
Mhm.
Bobby Mitchell screwed up the deck. No, but so you see on there's two line items billed on that invoice. It's not your invoice, just to be clear. And it's for radio airtime and production and then for absentee chase. Based on your invoice, would you represent that your firm had nothing to do with absentee chases for Brian Stewart?
We did not.
Okay. You did have to do with radio airtime and production?
Correct.
Would you recognize that amount, 11,864, as basically being your amount, whatever it was, 10,000, with probably a 10% markup?
I'd have to do the math and.
I didn't do the math. I should have. So your thing was 10,786.
Yeah.
And that's 11,884. So somewhere within that range of a 10% markup.
It appears so.
If somebody could do the math, I can't talk and do math at the same time. So you would represent that as, have you seen other constant content invoices like that?
Not that I
Yourself
recall.
personally? How about in other hearings? You probably have seen them in other hearings.
Potentially, I don't remember.
Is it normal for somebody like a constant content or somebody who's serving as a campaign management function or something like that to include some sort of markup on your invoices and what they bill the client?
It's not uncommon.
Okay. But you've never seen that invoice?
I don't recall seeing it.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Good afternoon. Sir. I'd like to go to page 54 in complainants exhibits if we could. Actually, we'll go to page 57. Mr. Schweitzer, I understood your testimony to be that this is the invoice that your company sent to Constant Contact, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Do you have any invoice in your records that is from Strategy Group for Media to Friends of Brian Stewart?
I do not.
Any invoice from your company to Brian Stewart individually?
I do not.
Any?
Not in 2020 for this campaign. I can't recall about other campaigns.
Okay, so for purposes of my question, we'll limit ourselves to the 2020 primary.
Correct.
Do you have any invoices or communications to Emily Cardillo?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Are you aware of any invoices from your company to Nelson Embry?
Never heard of Nelson.
All right. This invoice is marked as paid. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you have any idea who paid this?
Constant Content paid it.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because it would have come in a batch of invoices, which was Exhibit 1 to be paid off by them, and that's how they would pay the invoices for all the candidates.
Okay. And have you generally reviewed records relating to 2020 primary and the Friends of Brian Stewart Committee?
In general?
Are you generally familiar with the documents that your
Mostly.
committee would have relating to that
I am.
committee? Okay. Have you come across any email or text messages from anybody associated with Friends of Brian Stewart that says, hey, we'd like to place a radio ad?
I do not.
Okay. Any texts, emails whatsoever from Brian Stewart, the committee, treasurer, anybody directly to your company about this radio ad?
Not directly to me, no.
Okay.
Or to the company.
Have you seen any emails or text messages from anybody affiliated with Friends of Brian Stewart to Megan Fitzmartin relating to this ad?
I have not seen any, nor have I looked for them.
In 2020, let me rephrase. Are you familiar with what a legislative campaign fund is?
I am.
Okay. And would I be correct if I represented to you that the House Republican caucus has a campaign committee?
They do.
Okay. Do you recall what the name of that committee was in 2020?
It's changed its name a few times in the last few cycles. I believe at the time it was. Oh, no, it was after ORA.
If I represented
HRCC.
HRCC, does that ring a bell?
Sure.
House Republican
I would believe that.
campaign committee.
Mm-hmm.
During the 2020 primary, did you have any understanding of what the relationship was between HRCC and Constant Content?
I view Constant Content as being bless you, being the vehicle by which HRCC was using to spend, advertise, campaign through, if that makes sense.
I appreciate the answer. I'm going to represent to you that it's always been confusing to all of us candidates too.
Yeah.
Was the 2020 primary typical or was it a little atypical?
I would say it's atypical.
Okay. Can you definitively say what the contractual or business relationship was between HRCC and Constant Content?
Absolutely not.
Okay. It's a little confusing then as to
That's
who
fair.
is.
By the way, I'd offer an objection that you're asking the client to answer questions that he would have no personal knowledge of regardless. Because he's only here to testify as to that the activities took place and they were billed to Constant Content and there is supporting documentation. That's what he's here to testify to. All these other things about relationships of companies and was he aware of contracts or did he have emails about where Elvis might be are not relevant to this witness's testimony.
Madam, with that,
Proceed.
thank you. Mr. Schweitzer, when your company is working with a campaign caucus,
Mhm.
is it fairly typical that your company might produce radio ads, B-roll, or certain campaign materials that don't ultimately get used?
Sure.
If I refer to that as, having it in the can, is that a phrase you would use or have heard used?
It would be.
Okay.
Mhm.
In the 2020 primary, do you recall your company doing exactly that for a variety of candidates? Taking B-roll, producing some materials, having it in the can, but
It's typical that we would do that.
okay.
Very common.
Just because something gets produced doesn't mean that it actually is going to run, correct?
Correct.
And to briefly summarize your prior testimony, every aspect of this radio ad, your interactions were with Megan Fitzmartin only.
That's accurate.
Okay. I have no further questions for this witness.
Do people in your company get paid?
We are a for-profit company, therefore.
Are you a corporation or an LLC?
We're an ESOP that is an LLC.
Okay.
No, we're an S corp.
Okay, so you're a corporation. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Did you separate out on your invoices, production costs versus airtime costs?
We did.
Okay. And you said, and you testified when Mr. Stewart asked you that you only interacted with Ms. Fitzmartin on the actual radio ad,
That's my recollection.
but the voiceover that she gave to you was Brian Stewart himself reading his own disclaimer.
That's accurate.
Would that imply to you that Brian Stewart was aware that a radio ad was being produced?
Typically, yes.
Okay. As far as your work with Constant Content, I don't know what his whole point was about the HRCC. Maybe we'll explore that more with some other witness. But did you do work during the 2020 primary campaign cycle for a variety of entities like HRCC, ORP, individual candidate campaigns?
We work for hundreds of clients a year.
Hundreds of clients, okay. But the ones I just mentioned, the ORP, the HRCC, those are entities that you work with in addition to additional
We've
campaigns.
worked with them in the past. Specific to the primaries in 2020, I don't recall.
That's fair. That's fair. Would you have any reason to have, he asked you a lot of questions like some sort of TV lawyer on, do you have emails that say this? Do you have emails that say that? Do you have emails? So would you have any reason to have any of these emails, like internal campaign emails of Brian Stewart?
Go ahead.
Okay. Would I have any reason to have those emails?
Yeah, would you have any reason to have the emails of his internal campaign?
I would not.
Okay, no further questions. 101.
You don't need further cross? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Oh, can I do one other thing? May I ask one other question? I forgot the question. Appreciate the discretion. If you could go to, put it up on my screen and then I apologize. I don't even need paper. So if you could put up page 11 in my exhibits. During the entire time from, during all this, when you're doing the affidavit, I'm presenting the affidavit to them so you don't have to testify, that kind of stuff. Did anybody from Brian Stewart or Brian Stewart's campaign contact you to verify the accuracy of the invoices that you had provided?
Not that I recall, no.
Do you have any other relationship with the Brian Stewart campaign?
With the,
in 2020, in that time frame?
Not that I remember.
So when you look at this exhibit on page 11, it's like most of the way down, but it says the Strategy Group Company, 7660 Staggers.
Stage
Okay,
Group.
so that would be a bill to the campaign in the 2020 primary cycle that was from your, I know you have a variety of operating names, you know, strategic media placement, this, but that was from your organization.
That is
to
from
the
our organization
campaign.
for Town halls.
So, and then that was not paid for by the ORP or the HRCC or anybody else, but the campaign directly reimbursed you for that?
I do not handle town hall events at the firm.
Okay,
So I assume since we were paid for it, that's something that did happen.
okay, so that would, okay, so you can't really, I appreciate you can't testify as another line of entity, but his own, Brian Stewart's own campaign finance report from the 2020 primary cycle shows that he was paying money to your company, your group of companies
Mhm.
for other activities directly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Is he going to challenge anything?
Mr.
I have it. I have
The
it.
right to do so. if you-
I have it.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Are there any,
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. I have a-
yep, that's what I was asking. Thank you, gentlemen, for all of your help. Can we hear from you, Mr. Lyle? Thank you.
ma'am. Good afternoon, I guess.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Schweitzer, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Could you go to Exhibit F, please?
You have a page number, please? Thank you.
Go to, what's the second paragraph? And this is your affidavit, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have S&P produced the radio ad entitled Battle Tested for the legislative candidacy of Brian Stewart in the primary of March 2020. The production was arranged through and with Megan Fitzmartin, who was associated with Constant Content and acting as an agent for the campaign. The content and placement of the radio ad was approved by Ms. Fitzmartin. So in the sentence prior, where it says acting as an agent for the campaign, what's your intent there? What are you talking about?
My intent there is that frequently with individual candidates, I am not talking to either the candidates themselves nor those campaigns directly, but Megan was acting as what I would refer to as a general consultant. So someone overseeing multiple campaigns and kind of engineering what their message is overall, how that's flowing from mail to teletown halls to video. And so she was the person that I was interacting with who was handling multiple campaigns.
When you're speaking of the campaign, for the campaign, which campaign are you speaking about?
In this case, the Brian Stewart, Prince
Okay.
Brian Stewart campaign.
And had you ever dealt with Ms. Fitzmartin prior to this?
Many times,
Many
many
times.
years, yes.
And did you deal with her in a similar capacity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what was your understanding of her role with respect to the Stewart campaign?
Was like the other campaigns that she was acting as an agent for them, instructing me on what to do. And I would produce those ads, give them to her. She would then get sign off and approval on them, let me know that those were approved, and then we would ship those ads out.
Okay. And so obviously, based on your testimony and based on the affidavit, it was Megan Fitzmartin who approved the radio ad.
That is correct.
And she is also the one that paid or had Constant Content bill you, correct? And you paid Constant Content?
No, we build Constant Content. They build the campaign.
I'm sorry, I said it wrong. I meant to say what you did. So they paid for your service.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is typical of a general, not atypical of a general consultant. So it happens frequently.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
May I ask one follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Lyle. The commission members are asking questions at this time. I appreciate you chiming in. Yes, Ms. Go ahead, Commissioner.
So, yeah, thanks for coming, Mr. Schweitzer. So the battle tested and the invoicing, are you confident that that ad actually ran, or was it in the can?
It would have run as we have,
The FCC.
we have
report.
documents from the stations.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knight. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have.
Sure, Phil.
Mr. Schweitzer, I direct your attention to page 57, the exhibit. Essentially, it's the strategic media placement paid ad. And there are two, okay, if you look at the description in the ad, it says radio airtime 1 and then radio production down below. But yet there are 3 separate charges there, presumably. Essentially at $8,200 and $1,400 and $1,100. Just for clarification purposes, the $1,452 there, that's a part of, that's also payment for the radio airtime, I'm presuming, or are you aware of, either why those are broken out, or is that part of the other?
Yeah, combined, it's the total of the radio placement. I'm guessing, looking at this, all right, I know what this is. So that's going to be is that right? That math doesn't add up. It's going to be a total of what that radio airtime placement total is, which you see in Exhibit 3, that 9686. I'm guessing, if you add up those 2 lines, if that's the total that you get, it might be a gross versus net figure with the stations. But yeah, that total is going to equal that same line on radio airtime on Exhibit 1.
Okay. All right. That was just clarification as much as anything. Just to be relatively certain. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions of the commission members? Okay. If you would like to ask one additional question.
Just wanted to clarify, was Megan Fitzmartin also the person that served as your point of contact for the Gene Schmidt campaign and for the Alan Freeman campaign?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other question? Any other question of the respondents? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Schweitzer, thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Are there any other witnesses that the complainant would like to call to the stand?
Well, if you're taking your break.
Would you permit that?
At a sense of decorum and not to be demeaned, it's a little.